Hello, I'm Mark Sidwell, editor of CapX, and you're listening to Despatch, where we bring you the best writing from our unmissable daily email briefings, straight from the heart of Westminster. Read by an automated voice. Don't miss our podcast, The Capitalist, every Wednesday.
Could trillionaires be a good thing? Written by James Price, Senior Fellow at the Adam Smith Institute. One of the biggest barriers to getting leftists to understand economics is their pathological misunderstanding of how wealth works. The average socialist or communist thinks that billionaires are surrounded by piles of gold that sit there in a lair, like Smaug the dragon or Scrooge McDuck. They imagine Jeff Bezos and Elon Musk lying among piles of golden ducats and doubloons, making snow angels with their ill-gotten gains. I recently suffered this weapons-grade delusion in a debate hosted on the BBC. Invited to discuss the benefits and drawbacks of the super-rich, I was up against someone introduced as a comedian and activist. I shouldn't have been surprised to be faced with such funny views. The issue under discussion was Musk's recent new deal as CEO of Tesla. If he hits an insanely ambitious set of targets, a modern industrialist's version of the trials of Hercules, then the tech genius could, in 10 years, become the world's first trillionaire. To put into perspective how difficult hitting these targets will be, they include selling 1 million humanoid Optimus robots. These are far from ready, and none have yet been sold. He also needs to sell 2.5 times more Teslas in the next 10 years than have so far sold in the entire existence of the company. Faced against these odds, Hercules would probably prefer the Nemean lion or the Cretan bull. If Musk hits these targets, he will have turned Tesla into far and away the biggest and most profitable company on Earth, and generated more value than any other businessman in history. This will include more than $7 trillion for the investors who consented to back this deal. Not to mention tackling climate change, which Tesla will do more to ameliorate than any Green Party oddball. So, based on his behavior so far, and the behavior of other members of the super-rich, what would Musk do with that $1 trillion? Well, likely he would invest it all back into the other earth-changing technologies he has already been developing. I'm not actually a paid Elon shill, so I won't list them all off. But to pick on Neuralink alone, imagine what that company could do with the backing of a trillionaire. The paraplegic, especially children in the poorest countries, could be fitted with life-changing technology. And the same is true for so many of the super-wealthy. One favorite of mine is the little-known Joe Limont. After creating a company so successful that he personally is now worth $6 billion, Limont has turned his attention towards education. In the pilot school in the US, where he is now principal, Limont has built a system where, with just 2 hours of AI-led teaching a day, the students rank in the top 1% in America, and love school so much they ask to cancel the holidays. Having seemingly cracked how to run a great modern school, Limont is dedicating his life to scaling his model across first America, then the whole world. Fittingly for this piece, America spends $1 trillion a year on school education, with pretty mediocre results. Imagine what an entrepreneur like Limont could do with that sort of firepower. Because the truth is that when billionaires have the capacity to put their own money towards moonshot projects, they tend to care much more about the outcomes than if it were taxpayers' cash being spent by bureaucrats. Not only is the taxpayer not on the hook for these sorts of ambitious projects, but having some of the most successful people in history being personally invested in their success helps ensure their commercial viability. The proof of this can be seen when one compares NASA to SpaceX. One of them was the only entity capable of saving those astronauts stranded on the International Space Station last year. It wasn't the public body. We shouldn't be surprised that leftists don't understand how the real world works, because they don't live in it. But imagine if trillionaires were to revolutionize the education system. Maybe then they'd learn.
You've been listening to a dispatch from CapX, the unmissable daily briefing on politics, economics, and new ideas. For more writing like this, go to capx.co. That's capx.co. And don't miss the next edition of our podcast, The Capitalist, this Wednesday.